The USS Enterprise D maintained standard orbit around the archaeological site, its sleek saucer section reflecting the pale light of a dying star. Captain Jean-Luc Picard stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back, studying the viewscreen with the intensity of a man confronting a puzzle that defied easy categorization. Below, on the barren world designated Alpha Tauri 4, lay something that shouldn't exist, an energy signature reading as simultaneously 5,000 years old and moments from activation. Commander Data, your analysis? Picard's voice carried the measured calm of a Starfleet captain, but his eyes betrayed genuine curiosity. The android's fingers moved across his console with inhuman precision. Fascinating, Captain. The structure appears to be a stasis chamber of unknown origin. The technology predates any known civilization in this sector by several millennia. Yet its power generation capabilities exceed our own by a factor of 12.7. The energy matrix suggests a hybridization of organic and mechanical systems I have never encountered. Borg. Worf's deep voice rumbled from tactical, his hand instinctively moving toward the weapons console. Negative, Lieutenant. The technology is far more sophisticated and, curiously, appears designed for a single occupant. Data paused, his positronic brain processing thousands of calculations. Captain, the chamber is experiencing a cascade failure. Whatever hibernation cycle it maintained is ending. Picard felt the familiar weight of command settling on his shoulders. First contact protocols demanded caution, yet his archaeological instincts yearned to witness what ancient being might emerge from that technological tomb. Red alert. Shields up. Commander Riker, assemble an away team. Dr. Crusher, prepare sickbay for potential medical emergency. We approach this as we would any first contact situation, with open minds and careful preparation. The transporter room hummed with energy as Riker, Data, Worf, and a security detail materialized on the planet's surface. The away team found themselves standing before a pyramid-like structure that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Symbols covered its surface, neither hieroglyphics nor any known language, yet somehow conveying meaning through their geometric precision. These markings, Data observed, running his tricorder over the surface. They appear to be describing genetic manipulation on a massive scale. Evolution, accelerated and directed. This is not a tomb, Commander. It is a laboratory. The structure trembled. Deep within its core, something stirred, something that had slumbered while civilizations rose and fell, while humanity crawled from caves to reach the stars. The pyramid's surface began to ripple like liquid metal, reorganizing itself with purposeful intelligence. Then he emerged. The being stood nearly 7 feet tall, his blue-gray skin covered in intricate geometric patterns that seemed to shift and breathe. Ancient armor of impossible design adorned his massive frame, incorporating technology that blurred the line between flesh and machine. His eyes opened, eyes that had witnessed the fall of empires, eyes burning with intelligence and something darker, judgment. I am in Sabah Nur. The being's voice resonated with power that needed no translator, speaking directly into their minds. The first, the eternal, I have awakened to find the universe changed. His gaze swept across the away team, assessing, calculating, dismissing. You are human, evolved beyond your savage origins, yet you have grown soft, comfortable, weak. Riker stepped forward, hand raised in the universal gesture of peace. I'm Commander William Riker of the Federation Starship Enterprise. We mean you no harm. We'd like to help you understand where and when you are. Apocalypse's expression remained impassive as he accessed the pyramids, systems with a thought, downloading millennia of data in seconds. His face twisted, not with confusion, but with disgust. Your Federation, a society that has eliminated struggle, suffering, competition. You have violated the first law of existence, survival of the fittest. You nurture the weak, elevate mediocrity, and call it enlightenment. We call it civilization, Data replied, his unique perspective allowing him to engage without fear. The Federation represents humanity's evolution beyond barbarism. We have proven that cooperation achieves more than conflict. The ancient mutant's hand moved faster than human eyes could track, And suddenly Data found himself lifted off the ground by an invisible force. His android body held suspended. You are not even truly alive, machine being. Yet you lecture me on evolution? I who have shaped the rise and fall of species. The force released, and Data dropped to the ground. Your Federation's time is ending. A new age of testing begins. Only the strong shall inherit what remains. On the Enterprise, Picard watched the confrontation unfold through the away team's comm badges, his worst fears crystallizing into certainty. This was no archaeological find. This was a threat beyond anything they had encountered. A being who possessed godlike power and viewed the Federation's highest ideals as evolutionary failure. Captain, Counselor Troy's voice was tight with alarm. I'm sensing such overwhelming arrogance, such absolute certainty. He genuinely believes he has the right to judge all life as worthy or unworthy. And Captain, he feels no doubt whatsoever. Apocalypse raised his arms, and the pyramid responded, its alien technology interfacing with his celestial enhanced biology. The structure began to transform, rising from the barren ground as a towering spire of dark metal and pulsing energy. I will give your Federation a demonstration of natural law. Evolution through fire. Survival through testing. Let us see if your species has truly transcended its violent past, or merely hidden it beneath. Pretty words. Before anyone could respond, Apocalypse vanished in a surge of energy, teleporting himself beyond the Enterprise's sensor range. The pyramid continued its transformation, becoming a beacon broadcasting a simple message across subspace in every known language. The age of culling has begun. Prove your worth or face extinction. Picard's hand tightened on his command chair. They had awakened something ancient and terrible, a being who viewed the Federation's greatest achievement, its evolution beyond barbarism, as the ultimate weakness. And now that being was loose in a universe unprepared for his brutal philosophy. Mr. Data, track that energy signature. All hands, battle stations. And someone get me Starfleet command. Picard's voice carried steel now. We have a situation. The Enterprise conference room had become a war room within the hour. Picard sat at the head of the table, the weight of command evident in the lines deepening across his brow. Around him, his senior staff reviewed the fragmentary data they'd collected on their mysterious visitor, each piece more troubling than the last. Admiral Nechayev is dispatching the USS Lexington and the USS Crazy Horse to rendezvous with us. Riker reported, his jaw tight. Starfleet Command is treating this as a potential alpha-level threat. They want answers, Captain, and they want them yesterday. Data's fingers moved across his PAD with characteristic precision. I have been analyzing the being's technological signature. The integration of organic and mechanical systems is unlike anything in our database. Yet there are disturbing parallels to Borg technology, specifically, the concept of forced evolution through assimilation. However, this appears to be far older and, paradoxically, more advanced. He called himself the First. Dr. Crusher interjected, her medical mind already racing through implications. First what? First of his species? First to achieve this level of technological integration? I've never seen cellular regeneration like that. When Worf's phaser struck him during transport, the wound healed in seconds. We're talking about regeneration that exceeds even Borg nanoprobe efficiency. Worf's expression darkened at the memory. He is a warrior without honor. He did not even acknowledge our weapons as threats. To him, we were insects. The Klingon's pride had been wounded by more than just the physical confrontation. Counselor Troi leaned forward, her empathic senses still reeling from the brief contact. Captain, what concerns me most is his absolute conviction. I've felt arrogance before, even megalomania, but this was different. He genuinely believes he is serving some higher natural law. In his mind, culling the weak isn't cruelty, it's mercy, it's necessity. Picard rose, moving to the view screen where Alpha Tauri 4 hung like a judgment against the stars. Mr. Data, you mentioned he accessed millennia of data from his stasis chamber. What exactly did he learn about us? Everything, Captain. Federation history, technological capabilities, our expansion rate, population distributions, defensive capabilities, and most significantly, our philosophical principles. He now understands that the Federation has eliminated poverty, disease, and war through cooperation rather than conquest. And he finds this abhorrent, because it violates his survival of the fittest doctrine. Picard said quietly, the pieces falling into place. To him, we've created a society where the weak survive alongside the strong, where resources are shared rather than earned through combat. We represent everything he opposes. The comm system chirped. Bridge to Captain Picard. Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's him. On every frequency, every channel, subspace, radio, even our internal communications. On screen, Apocalypse's face filled the view screen, and despite the distance, his presence seemed to dominate the conference room. Behind him, the transformed pyramid pulsed with malevolent energy. Captain Jean-Luc Picard, I have studied your history. Your species clawed its way from primordial savagery to achieve space flight, a testament to human adaptability. Then you encountered the Vulcans, and everything changed. The ancient mutant's expression twisted with contempt. You abandoned conflict. You created a society where failure carries no consequences, where the mediocre are elevated equally with the exceptional. You have 500-member worlds, thousands of species, all protected under your banner of infinite diversity in infinite combinations. You celebrate weakness as strength. We celebrate cooperation, Picard countered, his voice carrying the moral certainty of a man who had faced gods and monsters. We learned that competition for resources creates only suffering. By working together, all species prosper. Prosper. Apocalypse's laugh was devoid of humor. You have grown fat and complacent. Your Starfleet ships carry families, children aboard vessels of war. Your officers study archaeology and poetry while danger threatens. You have forgotten the fundamental truth. Life is struggle. Evolution demands it. Without pressure, without testing, species stagnate and die. Data's head tilted slightly. Your premise is flawed. The Federation has continued to evolve culturally, technologically, and socially. We have achieved peace not through weakness, but through strength of character and conviction. Then let us test that conviction. Artificial life form. Apocalypse gestured, and the view screen split to show a Federation colony world, New Providence. Population 47,000. This colony represents your ideals in miniature. Humans, Vulcans, Andorians, Tellarites living in harmony. No conflict, no competition, no natural selection. I will visit New Providence, and I will judge which among them are worthy to survive my testing. You will do no such thing. Picard's voice cracked like a whip. That colony is under Federation protection. Any hostile action against Federation citizens will be considered an act of war. War. Apocalypse savored the word. Now you speak a language I understand. But you misunderstand my purpose, Captain. I do not make war. I am evolution's instrument. I separate wheat from chaff. The strong will emerge stronger. The weak. He shrugged, the gesture somehow conveying the extinction of worlds. The weak serve their purpose by being removed from the gene pool. Riker slammed his fist on the table. You're talking about mass murder dressed up in pseudoscientific philosophy. We won't let you harm innocent people. Innocent. Apocalypse leaned forward, his eyes blazing with ancient power. There is no innocence in nature, Commander. There is only survival or extinction. Your Federation has cheated natural law for too long. I will restore balance. And Captain Picard, I do this as a kindness. Your species once had potential. The warriors who conquered your world, who reached for the stars despite their limitations. They understood strength. Their descendants have forgotten. The transmission shifted to show star charts, colony locations, and fleet positions, information that should have been classified, encrypted, impossible for an outsider to access. I know the location of every Federation world, every starbase, every ship. Your defenses are admirably distributed, but ultimately futile. I am giving you advance warning, because even you deserve the chance to prove your evolution. Defend New Providence if you can. Show me that your cooperation can stand against the oldest law in existence. Picard felt ice crystallize in his chest. How long? 72 hours. Enough time to evacuate the colony, if you choose to abandon them. Enough time to assemble your fleet, if you choose to fight. Enough time to consider whether your principles are worth dying for. Apocalypse's image filled the screen one final time. I have lived 5,000 years, Captain. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have guided evolution's hand and culled those who weaken the species. Your Federation will be no different. Prove me wrong, if you possess the strength. The transmission ended, leaving the conference room in stunned silence. Finally, Picard spoke, his voice carrying absolute conviction. Mr. Worf, tactical analysis. How fast can we reach New Providence? At maximum warp, 18 hours, Captain. Then set course immediately. Dr. Crusher, prepare for mass casualties. Commander Riker, coordinate with the colonial authorities. Begin evacuation procedures. And Data. Picard turned to his android officer. Find me a weakness. Technological, psychological, anything. This being may be ancient and powerful, but he is not invincible. Captain, Troy said softly, he wants us to fight. This is a test to him. If we evacuate, we prove his point about weakness. If we fight and lose, we prove his point about Federation ineffectiveness. We're playing by his rules. Picard's expression hardened into something. His crew rarely saw the archaeologist replaced by the warrior who had fought the Borg, who had stared into the abyss and refused to blink. Then we change the rules, Counselor. We show him that humanity's evolution beyond barbarism is not weakness, it is our greatest strength. And we do it without becoming monsters ourselves. The Enterprise dropped out of warp at the edge of the New Providence system with 17 hours to spare. What they found waiting turned Picard's blood cold. The colony was already under siege. Report. Picard barked, gripping his command chair as the view screen filled with scenes of chaos. Captain, I'm reading multiple energy discharges on the planet's surface, Data reported, his fingers flying across. Ops. Apocalypse has deployed some form of technological constructs, autonomous machines conducting what appears to be systematic population analysis. They are not killing indiscriminately, sir. They are selecting. The main viewer zoomed in on New Providence's capital city. Sleek, insectoid machines prowled the streets, scanning colonists with beams of golden light. Some people the machines simply passed by. Others, men, women, even children, were encased in crystalline stasis fields and transported to the transformed pyramid that now dominated the colony's skyline like a dark monument to ancient cruelty. He lied, Worf growled. He said 72 hours. It has been less than 18. No, Picard said grimly. He gave us a choice. We could have evacuated immediately. Instead, we took time to analyze, to plan, to follow our protocols. He counted on our restraint, our need for proper procedure. He's teaching us a lesson about the cost of hesitation. Dr. Crusher's face appeared on the comm screen from sickbay. Captain, I'm monitoring the colonial medical channels. Those machines aren't harming anyone, not directly. But the people they're taking, Jean-Luc, they're selecting based on genetic markers. Physical strength, intelligence quotients, psionic potential, resistance to disease. He's cherry-picking the colonists like specimens in a laboratory. Hail the planet. Get me Governor Martinez. A haggard face appeared on screen. Governor Elena Martinez. Looked like she'd aged 10 years in the past hour. Enterprise, thank God. Captain, it's madness down here. These machines appeared without warning, and nothing stops them. Our security forces' phasers just bounce off their shields. They've taken nearly 2,000 people already, and we have no idea where or why. Governor, begin immediate evacuation of all non-selected colonists to the southern continent. We're coming down. Captain, there's something else. Martinez's voice dropped. The people who've been passed over, they're terrified, but they're also angry. Angry that they weren't chosen. It's like he's poisoning us with his philosophy just by the act of selection. People are starting to question why they were deemed unworthy. What kind of monster weaponizes our own insecurities? Picard felt his jaw tighten. The kind who has spent 5,000 years perfecting psychological warfare. Stand by, Governor. We're on our way. In Transporter Room 3, the away team assembled. Riker, Worf, Data, and a full security contingent materialized on New Providence's main plaza to find themselves in the midst of a nightmare. Disguised as order, the machines moved with eerie precision through streets where Federation citizens huddled in doorways, watching with expressions of horror and, most disturbingly, fascination. One of the constructs approached a young Andorian man, scanning him with methodical thoroughness. The golden light intensified, and the machine's verdict came, worthy. The Andorian vanished in a flash of energy, his screams cut off mid-breath. By Collis, Worf whispered, raising his phaser rifle. Hold your fire, Riker commanded, though every instinct screamed to act. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we engage. A machine turned its attention to the away team. It approached Data, scanning him for a long moment. Then something unexpected happened. The construct tilted its head in what might have been confusion or curiosity before simply moving on, dismissing the android as irrelevant to its parameters. Fascinating, Data murmured. It did not categorize me as alive in the biological sense. I do not register within its selection criteria. Another machine targeted Worf. The Klingon tensed as golden light washed over him, expecting transport or attack. Instead, the machine's scanning intensified, lingering, analyzing. Then it projected a holographic symbol above Worf's head, a mark that glowed with approving radiance. Commander, Data said urgently, Lieutenant Worf has been classified as superior specimen. The machine is attempting to transport him. Like hell, Worf snarled and opened fire. The phaser beam struck the construct's shields and scattered harmlessly. The machine didn't even pause. Worf found himself enveloped in the crystalline stasis field, his body frozen mid-combat stance. Before Riker could react, the Klingon vanished. Damn it, Riker slapped his comm badge. Enterprise, lock onto Lieutenant Worf's signal. Unable to comply. Commander, came Data's voice from both the away team and the Enterprise simultaneously, his positronic brain allowing him to multitask across locations. The transport technology employs principles beyond our current understanding. It is not standard matter-energy conversion. The subjects appear to be shifted through a dimensional fold directly into the pyramid structure. On the Enterprise bridge, Picard made his decision. Mr. Data, transfer command to Commander Riker. You're with me. Dr. Crusher, Counselor Troi, prepare to beam down. If Apocalypse wants to test us, then he's going to face the full measure of what humanity has become. Minutes later, Picard stood before the transformed pyramid, his senior staff flanking him. The structure loomed impossibly high, its surface crawling with alien geometries that hurt to observe directly. At its base, a doorway had opened. An invitation or a trap, it hardly mattered. Captain, Troi said softly, her empathic senses reeling. I can feel thousands of minds inside. They're alive, but changed, confused, afraid. And there's something else, anticipation, excitement. Some of them are starting to believe in what he's doing. Then we have even less time than I thought, Picard replied, stepping toward the entrance. Apocalypse isn't just testing bodies, he's testing our civilization's psychological foundations. Every person who starts to believe in his philosophy is a victory for him. They entered the pyramid to find themselves in a vast chamber that defied external dimensions. Impossible architecture stretched in directions that shouldn't exist, lit by pulsing energy that felt organic and mechanical simultaneously. And at the chamber's center, suspended in columns of golden light, were the selected colonists, nearly 3,000 souls arranged in geometric perfection. Apocalypse descended from above, no longer bothering with the pretense of walking. He floated down like a dark god, his presence filling the chamber with oppressive power. Captain Picard, you came yourself. Good. I would speak with you before the testing begins. Release these people immediately, Picard demanded, his voice echoing through the impossible space. Whatever experiment you're conducting ends now. Experiment. Apocalypse's expression suggested something almost like amusement. No, Captain. This is salvation. Look at them, the finest specimens from your colony. The strongest, the smartest, the most adaptable. I have culled the mediocre and preserved the exceptional. These individuals will be offered a choice. Accept enhancement and become more than they were, or prove their worth through trial. Dr. Crusher stepped forward, her medical ethics overriding her fear. Enhancement? You're talking about forced genetic modification. That's a violation of everything we stand for. Every sentient being has the right to bodily autonomy. Rights. Apocalypse spoke the word like a curse. Another Federation delusion. Rights are not granted by words on a page. Doctor. They are earned through strength. These colonists have earned the right to evolve beyond their limitations. I offer them transcendence. You offer them slavery, Picard countered. Dressed in the language of evolution, but slavery nonetheless. You're trying to remake them in your image, to create followers who accept your brutal philosophy because you've rewritten their very biology. The ancient mutant's eyes flashed with something dark. You understand nothing. For 5,000 years, I have guided evolution's hand. I transformed wandering tribes into mighty empires. I elevated the strong and removed the weak. And what did your species do? You created a society where the crippled are healed, where the dim-witted are educated, where the cowardly are protected. You have broken evolution's sacred covenant. Data tilted his head, his positronic brain processing the philosophical implications. You assume evolution has a goal, a direction. This is scientifically inaccurate. Evolution is adaptation to environment, nothing more. The Federation's cooperative model is itself an evolutionary adaptation, one that has proven remarkably successful across hundreds of species. Successful? Apocalypse's voice rose, and the chamber trembled with his anger. You have created a garden of weaklings. And when true predators come, the Borg, the Dominion, the species you have not yet encountered, your philosophy will collapse. You will beg for warriors like me to save you from your own idealism. Picard took a step forward, meeting those ancient eyes without flinching. We have faced the Borg. We have fought the Dominion. And yes, we have suffered losses. But we survived because we stood together, because our diversity created resilience, because our principles gave us something worth fighting for. Your way creates only tyrants and victims. Our way creates community. Then let us put your community to the test, Apocalypse declared. The golden columns flared, and the suspended colonists began to wake. I will offer each of these individuals a choice. Accept my enhancement and become superior, stronger, faster, immune to disease, capable of feats your Federation cannot imagine, or refuse, and face trials that will prove whether your cooperation can overcome my design. And if they fail your trials? Crusher demanded. Apocalypse's silence was answer enough. This is barbarism, Picard said quietly, but his voice carried steel. Whatever you once were, whatever civilizations you claim to have guided, you have become the very thing evolution should have eliminated, a relic. Your philosophy belongs to humanity's dark past, not its future. Then save them, Captain. Apocalypse spread his arms wide, and the chamber transformed. Doors opened in the impossible walls, revealing maze-like passages filled with hazards both technological and biological. Prove that you're weak. Cooperative philosophy can overcome challenges designed by a god. You have until the last colonist either accepts my gift or dies in my crucible. The choice, as always, is yours. The distress call from New Providence reached Starfleet Command within hours, and with it came an unexpected complication that Picard had not anticipated. The Klingon Empire was listening. Chancellor Gowron's face filled the view screen in Picard's ready room, his wild eyes gleaming with an intensity that bordered on religious fervor. Picard, we have intercepted transmissions from your colony world. This Apocalypse, he speaks of strength, of testing, of culling the weak. These are Klingon values spoken by an alien tongue. Chancellor, this is a Federation internal matter, Picard replied carefully, sensing the dangerous territory ahead. We appreciate the Empire's concern, but concern? Gowron's laugh was harsh. You misunderstand, Picard. We are not concerned. We are intrigued. For generations, we have watched your Federation grow soft, abandoning the warrior's path for the diplomat's words. Now comes a being who challenges your weakness directly. The High Council wishes to observe this test. This isn't a test, Chancellor. It's genocide dressed in philosophical rhetoric. Apocalypse is murdering innocent people based on arbitrary genetic criteria. Arbitrary? Gowron leaned forward. I think not. Lieutenant Worf was judged worthy by this being's machines. A Klingon recognized for his strength while humans cower. Perhaps this Apocalypse sees what we have always known, that true honor lies in combat, not cooperation. Picard felt his patience fraying. Worf was kidnapped, Chancellor. He's being held against his will in that pyramid along with 3,000 Federation citizens. If the Empire has any respect for the treaties between our peoples, the Empire respects strength, Picard. Nothing more, nothing less. Gowron's expression shifted, becoming calculating. But we will not interfere. Yet, we will watch. And if your Federation falls to this ancient warrior's testing, then the Klingon Empire will know that our path, the warrior's path, remains the only true way. The transmission ended, leaving Picard staring at the blank screen. Another complication in an already impossible situation. But before he could process the implications, his comm badge chirped. "Captain, you need to see this." Data's voice carried an unusual tension. The Klingon Empire is not the only one paying attention. Picard returned to the bridge to find the view screen displaying multiple sensor readings. Ships were converging on New Providence from across the sector, not a fleet, but independent vessels, merchant ships, private yachts, even a few Ferengi trading vessels, their warp signatures unmistakable. "What is this?" Picard demanded. "Captain, Apocalypse's broadcast has gone viral across subspace communication networks." Data explained. His challenge to the Federation. His philosophy of strength through testing. It is resonating with elements of multiple societies. These ships contain observers, reporters, and Data paused. Volunteers. Volunteers. Counselor Troy's expression was grim. People who believe in what he's saying, Captain. Individuals from dozens of species who think the Federation has made them weak. They're coming to New Providence to offer themselves for his testing, to accept his enhancement. Picard felt the floor shift beneath him. This was worse than an invasion. Apocalypse wasn't just attacking the Federation. He was attacking the philosophical foundations of everything they'd built. And people were listening. "Sir, incoming transmission from the pyramid," the communications officer reported. "It's Lieutenant Worf." The view screen shifted to show Worf standing in what appeared to be an arena within the pyramid's impossible interior. The Klingon looked unharmed but furious, his uniform torn and his bat'leth in hand. Behind him, Picard could see other colonists, humans, Andorians, Vulcans, all bearing weapons and facing each other in small groups. "Captain," Worf's voice was tight with barely controlled rage. "Apocalypse has divided us into combat groups. He claims he is testing our warrior spirit. We are being forced to fight each other for survival. Those who refuse are subjected to what he calls natural consequences." The view panned to show a section of the arena where colonists who had refused to fight were being subjected to hostile environments. Extreme heat, cold, atmospheric pressure changes. Some were adapting, struggling to survive. Others were failing. "This is intolerable," Picard said. "Mr. Worf, we're working on extraction options." "No, Captain." Worf's interruption was sharp. "You must understand what he is doing. He is not simply killing us. He is converting us." Those who survive his trials begin to believe. I have seen it happening. Humans who embraced your Federation ideals of peace now speak of the weakness of compassion. Vulcans who valued logic above all now embrace survival instinct. He is breaking our cultural identities through enforced trauma. Another face appeared beside Worf, Governor Martinez, but changed. Her eyes held a feverish light that hadn't been there before. "Captain Picard, I have accepted Apocalypse's enhancement. I feel stronger, faster. My mind processes information with clarity I never knew possible. He's right about us. We were weak. The Federation made us dependent, comfortable, soft. But no more. Elena, listen to me," Picard said urgently. "Whatever he's done to you, it can be reversed. You're experiencing Stockholm Syndrome combined with biological manipulation. This isn't enlightenment, it's brainwashing." "Is it?" Martinez's smile was cold. "Or is this the first honest moment of my life? For 30 years, I governed a colony where everyone was equal, where no one struggled, where mediocrity was celebrated as diversity. Apocalypse showed me the truth. Equality is a lie. Some people are simply better than others. And now I'm one of them." The transmission shifted back to Apocalypse himself, who stood atop the arena like a dark conductor, orchestrating humanity's dissolution. "You see, Captain, I do not merely test bodies. I test philosophies. Your Federation's ideology crumbles when subjected to real pressure. These people were raised on your principles. Yet, given a choice between comfortable weakness and empowered strength, they choose strength. Every time. You're torturing them. Dr. Crusher's voice rang out from the bridge, subjecting them to impossible stress and then offering enhancement as the only escape. That's not choice, it's coercion. All of evolution is coercion, Doctor. The environment demands adaptation or extinction. I am merely accelerating the process. Apocalypse gestured, and the arena transformed, walls reconfiguring into a new maze of challenges. But I am not without mercy. Captain Picard, I offer you a bargain. Enter my pyramid. Face my trials alongside your colonists. If you can survive without accepting my enhancement, if you can prove that your Federation ideals have practical value beyond rhetoric, I will release everyone you save. But if you fail, if you break, if you accept that strength is the only truth, then New Providence becomes the first of many worlds I will reshape. Picard's senior staff erupted in protest. Riker was the loudest. Captain, you can't seriously consider this. It's a trap. Of course it's a trap. Number one, Picard replied quietly. But it's also our only option. He's systematically converting or killing 3,000 people. Starfleet can't reach us in time. We have no weapons that affect his technology. And every hour we delay, more colonists accept his philosophy out of desperation or genuine belief. Captain, Data interjected. I have been analyzing the pyramid structure. It is generating a dampening field that prevents transporter locks and shields our sensors from penetrating its interior. However, I believe I could enter the structure, undetected through one of its lower maintenance conduits. My positronic brain may be immune to his psychological manipulation, and my android strength could prove useful, as could Klingon strength, Worf added from the pyramid. Captain, I have not accepted his enhancement, and I do not intend to. But I cannot fight my way out alone. I need backup, and I need time. If you can reach the pyramid's core, there may be a way to deactivate his machinery from within. Picard looked at each of his officers in turn. Riker's jaw was set in stubborn loyalty. Data waited with android patience for orders. Crusher's medical bag was already packed. Troy's empathic senses were monitoring every emotional nuance, each of them ready to follow him into hell itself. Very well, Picard said, his voice carrying the weight of command and something more, the absolute conviction that had guided him through every crisis his long career had thrown at him. Mr. Data, taken. Engineering team and find that maintenance access. Dr. Crusher, prepare medical supplies for mass casualties. Counselor Troy, I'll need you to identify colonists who are genuinely converted versus those who are simply traumatized. And number one, he turned to Riker. You have the bridge. If this goes badly, if Apocalypse kills me and converts the colonists, you are authorized to do whatever is necessary to contain this threat. Jean-Luc, Crusher said softly, using his first name as she rarely did. What he's doing in there, it's designed to break people, to make them abandon everything they believe. You're walking into a psychological meat grinder. Picard allowed himself a tight smile. Beverly, I have been assimilated by the Borg. I have lived for lifetimes in the span of minutes. I have stared into the face of Q's cosmic power and refused to blink. If Apocalypse thinks he can break me with his trials, he's about to learn that humanity's strength comes not from physical prowess, but from something he gave up millennia ago, the ability to believe in something greater than ourselves. He stood, tugging his uniform straight in the gesture that had become his signature. I'm going down there, and I'm bringing those people home. All of them. On the view screen, Apocalypse smiled. It was the smile of a being who had orchestrated the fall of civilizations, who had tested the limits of evolution itself. Come then, Captain. Let us see if your ideals can survive when stripped of your comfortable starship and forced to face primal reality. Evolution awaits. Picard materialized inside the pyramid's lower levels and immediately understood why Data had chosen this entry point. The maintenance conduits were clearly designed for Apocalypse's machines. Not organic life, narrow passages filled with pulsing energy, conduits and geometric patterns that seemed to shift when observed directly. But they were unguarded. Perhaps because the ancient mutant never imagined anyone would be foolish enough to navigate them. Captain, Data's voice came through the comm badge, somehow penetrating the dampening field at this depth. I am reading your biosigns. Proceed forward approximately 47 meters. Then ascend through the vertical shaft. That should place you near the arenas. Lower chambers where the colonists are being held between trials. Picard moved carefully through the alien architecture, his archaeological training the only thing keeping him oriented in this impossible space. The walls weren't merely technological, they were alive in some way, responding to his presence with subtle shifts in illumination and temperature. He'd seen similar biomechanical integration in ancient ruins across the galaxy, but never anything this sophisticated. Captain, I must inform you of a complication, Data continued. I am monitoring communications from the arriving vessels. Word of apocalypses. Challenge has spread throughout the sector. Several prominent figures are calling this a legitimate test of Federation ideology. The Ferengi Commerce Authority has begun accepting bets on the outcome. And sir, the Romulan Star Empire has dispatched a warbird to observe. Of course they had. The Romulans would never miss an opportunity to witness potential Federation weakness. Noted, Mr. Data. Maintain surveillance on all approaching vessels. If any attempt to interfere, a scream cut through the corridor ahead. Human, filled with terror and pain. Picard abandoned stealth and ran toward the sound, emerging into a chamber that made his blood run cold. 20 colonists were suspended in individual cylindrical chambers, each subjected to different environmental extremes. One chamber filled with water, forcing its occupant to hold their breath beyond human endurance. Another flickered with electrical discharges while its victim convulsed. A third spun at gravitational forces that would crush organs. And in the center of it all stood a figure. Picard recognized from the personnel files Commander Sarah Chun, the colony's chief of security, now wearing the dark armor of Apocalypse's converted followers. Captain Picard, Chun said, her voice carrying an eerie calm. I was told you might find your way here. Apocalypse wants you to witness this stage of testing. These colonists refused enhancement. They clung to Federation ideals of equality and cooperation. Now they learn the price of their weakness. Commander Chun, you're a Starfleet officer, Picard said, keeping his voice level despite his horror. You took an oath to protect these people, not torture them. I took an oath to serve a lie, Chun replied. Starfleet taught me that all sapient beings are equal. That diversity is strength, that cooperation trumps competition. But Apocalypse showed me the mathematical truth. Some genetic configurations are objectively superior to others. Some neural patterns process information faster. Some muscular structures generate more force. These are facts, Captain, not opinions. The Federation built a civilization on the denial of objective biological hierarchy. Picard moved slowly toward the control panel, trying to assess how to shut down the torture chambers. Biology is not destiny, Commander. Yes, there are physical differences between individuals and species. But consciousness, intelligence, creativity, compassion, these transcend mere genetic configuration. What makes us human, or Vulcan, or Andorian isn't our DNA. It's our choices. Choices. Chun laughed, and the sound was hollow. I chose to accept enhancement when my trial began. Do you know what my trial was, Captain? Apocalypse placed me in a room with 10 other security officers. He said only 5 of us would leave alive. The choice was ours. Work together to find another solution or fight for survival. We chose cooperation. We refused to kill each other. She paused, and something flickered across her face, an echo of the person she'd been. We failed. The room filled with neurotoxin. We all died, Captain. All 10 of us, because we believed in Federation principles. Then Apocalypse resurrected us with his celestial technology and offered enhancement. 5 of us accepted. The other 5 chose to remain pure. Those 5 are in these chambers now, learning that their principles only work when reality cooperates with ideology. Picard felt something crack inside his careful diplomatic composure. He murdered you. All of you. Then he used that trauma to break your moral foundations. Commander, what you're experiencing isn't enlightenment, it's survivor's guilt, weaponized into ideology. Then prove me wrong. Chun gestured to the chambers. Save them, Captain. Use your cooperation, your diversity, your ideals. You have 10 minutes before the trials escalate beyond survival thresholds. Show me that Federation principles have practical application in the real world. Picard examined the control panel, a nightmarish fusion of technology, and organic interfaces that seemed to resist his attempts at analysis. Each chamber operated independently, requiring individual solutions. He couldn't save them all alone. He needed help. Data, I need you to access the pyramid systems through my combadge signal. Can you interface with these torture devices? Attempting now, Captain. However, the system is adaptive. Each time I penetrate one layer of security, it reconfigures. It is learning from my intrusion attempts. Estimated time to full access, 12.3 minutes. Too long. Picard made a decision that violated every Starfleet regulation and personal conviction he held. Commander Chun, help me save these people, and I'll listen to Apocalypse's philosophy. I'll face his trials. But in this torture now, Chen's expression shifted, surprise, then calculation, then something that might have been her original personality surfacing. Through the enhancements, influence, you would bargain with me? Negotiate for their lives. I would do whatever is necessary to protect innocent people from harm, even if it means compromising my principles temporarily to serve them ultimately. That's what command means, Commander. Making the hard choices that keep people alive. For a long moment, Chen stared at him. Then her hand moved to the control panel. The chambers deactivated, releasing their gasping, traumatized occupants. He predicted this, you know. Apocalypse said you would negotiate, compromise, bend your absolute principles the moment they became inconvenient. He said the Federation's morality is situational, pure only when comfortable, flexible when tested. He's wrong, Picard said quietly, moving to help the freed colonists, several of whom collapsed immediately. The principle I'm upholding is the sanctity of life. Everything else, ideology, philosophy, even personal honor, serves that fundamental value. If fighting saves lives, I fight. The method changes. The principle doesn't. Chen watched him work, her enhanced physiology allowing her to process the philosophical distinction faster than her original biology could have. You're saying the ends justify the means. No, I'm saying the means must serve the ends. And the end is always the preservation and flourishing of sapient life. Everything Apocalypse has done serves his philosophy of strength through culling. Everything I do serves the preservation of life. We both make hard choices, Commander. The difference is what we're willing to sacrifice to achieve our goals. A slow clap echoed through the chamber. Apocalypse materialized from shadows that shouldn't exist in the well-lit space, his presence immediately dominating the room. Beautifully argued, Captain. You have a gift for rhetoric. It almost obscures the fundamental hypocrisy of your position. There's no hypocrisy in valuing life, isn't there? Apocalypse gestured, and holographic displays materialized showing incidents from Federation history. You value life, yet the Federation's prime directive allows entire civilizations to die from natural disasters or social collapse rather than interfere. You value cooperation, yet Starfleet maintains armed vessels capable of destroying planets. You claim to have evolved beyond barbarism, yet when threatened by the Borg, by the Dominion, by species that don't share your values, you fight with the same savagery as any warrior culture. Picard met those ancient eyes without flinching. The difference is context and necessity. We don't seek conflict, but we defend ourselves when attacked. We don't interfere in natural cultural development, but we protect developing civilizations from external threats. We maintain weapons not because we want to use them, but because the galaxy contains beings like you who view compassion as weakness. Beings like me? Apocalypse's smile was predatory. I am evolution incarnate, Captain. I am what your species would have become if you hadn't encountered the Vulcans and adopted their philosophy of suppressing emotion, their logic that denies the fundamental competition driving all life. The Vulcans nearly destroyed themselves through emotion, so they created a culture of repression. And humanity, young and impressionable, adopted their trauma as wisdom. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming in its intensity. Do you know what I see when I look at the Federation, Captain Picard? I see potential squandered. Humans who could have become the greatest warriors in the galaxy, reduced to diplomats. Klingon who could have conquered entire sectors, neutered by treaties. Vulcans who possessed the capacity for passion and logic, choosing to lobotomize half their nature. Your Federation is a graveyard of species who abandoned their evolutionary potential for the comfortable lie of equality. You see weakness where I see strength, Picard countered. Yes, we've chosen cooperation over conquest. Yes, we've built a society where the strong protect the weak rather than prey upon them. But that choice requires more strength than your philosophy of might makes right. Any brute can dominate through force. Building a civilization where diverse species with different capabilities live in genuine partnership, that requires courage, wisdom, and continuous effort. What you call weakness is the hardest work sentient beings can undertake. Apocalypse was silent for a moment, and Picard recognized something in his expression, not agreement, but genuine consideration. This being had lived for 5 millennia. He'd guided empires and culled species. But perhaps in all that time, no one had truly challenged his fundamental assumptions. You believe that, Apocalypse said finally. Truly believe that cooperation is harder than conquest. Fascinating. Very well. Captain, I accept your offer. You will face my trials. But understand, I am not testing your body. Any human can be broken physically. I am testing your philosophy. And when you fail, when you are forced to choose between your principles and survival, when you must decide whether one life matters more than another, when you face the fundamental inequality of existence, your failure will prove what I have always known. Evolution has no room for the weak, and cooperation is merely temporary alliance between self-interested beings. Then you're going to be disappointed, Picard said quietly, because I've faced those choices before, and I'll face them again. And I'll keep choosing compassion, keep choosing cooperation, keep choosing to believe that sapient beings are capable of transcending their baser instincts. That's what makes us more than animals, more than gene sequences competing for resources. That's what makes us worthy of existence. Apocalypse's eyes flashed with something, anticipation, perhaps even respect. Then let the testing begin, Captain. Prove your species has truly evolved, or prove me right. The arena materialized around Picard with disorienting suddenness. One moment, he stood in the torture chamber. The next, he found himself in a vast amphitheater, carved from the pyramid's impossible geometry. Thousands of colonists lined elevated platforms, forced to witness what was about to unfold. Among them, Picard spotted Worf, still defiant despite visible exhaustion, and Governor Martinez, her enhanced physiology evident in the unnatural stillness of her posture. At the arena's center stood 4 figures in dark armor, Apocalypse's converted followers, but unlike Chun, these 4 radiated power that made the air shimmer around them. Their armor bore symbols that Picard's archaeological training recognized immediately, ancient representations of conquest, famine, pestilence, and death. The 4 horsemen, Apocalypse's voice boomed through the arena, though the ancient mutant himself remained invisible, speaking from everywhere and nowhere. In every age, I have chosen the strongest to serve as my instruments. These 4 accepted my gift willingly, embracing the philosophy you reject. They represent what humanity could become, perfected, enhanced, transcendent. The first horseman stepped forward, a male, Andorian whose blue skin now shimmered with metallic undertones. His voice carried an eerie resonance. I am Conquest. I was a merchant, trading goods between worlds, believing cooperation enriched all parties. Apocalypse showed me the truth. Trade is merely civilized warfare, and the strongest negotiator always wins. I accepted enhancement to become the ultimate victor. The second horseman, a human woman whose eyes glowed with feverish intensity, spoke next. I am Famine. I managed agricultural resources, ensuring equitable distribution according to Federation principles. But Apocalypse revealed that scarcity is nature's teacher. Those who can endure hunger grow stronger. Those who cannot deserve their weakness. I now understand that compassion for the hungry only breeds more hunger. The third, a Tellarite male whose tusks had been replaced with technological augmentation. I am Pestilence. I was a doctor, sworn to heal all who suffered. Apocalypse taught me that disease is evolution's culling mechanism. By healing the vulnerable, I was weakening the species. Now I embrace sickness as a test. Only the strong immune systems deserve survival. The fourth horseman, a Vulcan female whose logical demeanor had been replaced with cold certainty. completed the introduction. I am Death. I was a scientist studying entropy and cosmological heat death. Apocalypse showed me that death is not tragedy but necessity. Every being that dies removes inferior genes from the pool. I now serve the ultimate logic, extinction of the unfit. Picard felt his stomach turn. These weren't warriors or criminals. These were ordinary Federation citizens, merchants, farmers, healers, scientists, who had been systematically broken and reconstructed according to Apocalypse's brutal philosophy. Their very identities had been weaponized against everything they once believed. Your trial is simple, Captain, Apocalypse continued. Defeat my horsemen. Prove that your principles can overcome their perfected evolution. But there are conditions. You may not use lethal force. Your Federation morality forbids it. They, however, are under no such restrictions. You may not accept help from the colonists. Watching, cooperation only works if others choose to cooperate. And I have commanded them to remain still. And you may not accept my enhancement, even if faced with certain death. Prove your philosophy through action or die demonstrating its impotence. This isn't a test, Picard said, his voice carrying to every corner of the arena. It's a predetermined execution designed to look like a trial. All of life is a predetermined execution, Captain. The only question is when and how. You claim cooperation and compassion make humanity strong. Demonstrate it. Survive. Win. Or accept that I am right. That strength, not morality, determines survival. The four horsemen began to circle Picard, their enhanced movements impossibly fast. Conquest struck first, moving with speed that shouldn't be possible for Andorian physiology. Picard barely dodged, the blow cratering the arena floor where he'd stood a moment before. Captain, Worf's voice roared from the platforms. Use Mak'bara techniques. Center your balance. Anticipate their patterns. Lieutenant Worf, Apocalypse's voice cut through the arena. I commanded silence. Since you cannot obey, you will face consequences. A beam of energy struck Worf, and the Klingon collapsed, his body convulsing. The message was clear. Any assistance would be punished. Picard rolled away from Famine's strike, his mind racing. He couldn't win this through physical combat. These beings were enhanced beyond any human capability. But Apocalypse had made a critical error in his trial design. He'd allowed Picard to speak. Conquest, Picard called out, dodging another devastating blow. You were a merchant named Theris Thkrin. You had a husband and 3 children on Andoria Prime. You believed trade built bridges between cultures because you'd seen it happen. Saw Andorian and Vulcan merchants create partnerships that enriched both species. That wasn't weakness. That was wisdom learned through experience. Conquest hesitated, just for a microsecond, and his next strike was fractionally slower. Famine. Picard continued, weaving between attacks. You were Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. You solved the blight crisis on Deneva Bai, coordinating relief efforts across 12 species. You proved that shared resources create abundance, not scarcity. You saved 2 million lives through cooperation, not competition. Famine's glowing eyes flickered, and her assault pattern broke slightly. Picard pressed on, speaking to each horseman in turn, not to attack them, but to remind them of who they were. Pestilence. You were Dr. Gralka. You developed the vaccine for Rigelian fever by sharing research with Klingon and Romulan scientists. You proved that healing the vulnerable strengthens everyone. Your compassion was your greatest achievement, not weakness. Death. You were Saren. Your entropy research led you to conclude that life's impermanence makes it precious. You wrote a paper arguing that because death is inevitable, every moment of existence carries infinite value. You understood that mortality doesn't diminish life, it sanctifies it. The four horsemen had stopped attacking. They stood frozen, their enhanced bodies still perfect instruments of violence, but their minds wrestling with something. Apocalypse's technology couldn't completely suppress memory. They remember, Picard said, addressing Apocalypse directly though he couldn't see him. Your enhancement changed their biology, restructured their neural pathways, but you can't completely erase who they were. Because identity isn't just genetics, it's experience, relationships, choices made over a lifetime. You can suppress it, but you can't destroy it without destroying the person entirely. Apocalypse materialized in the arena, his expression unreadable. Clever, Captain. You've disrupted their conditioning through emotional manipulation. But you've only delayed the inevitable. They will recover their focus, and you will still face defeat. You cannot win through speeches. I'm not trying to win, Picard replied. I'm trying to save them. There's a difference you've never understood. In 5,000 years, the difference between victory and worth. You measure everything by who survives, who dominates, who conquers. But the true measure of sapient beings is who we try to save, even when saving them costs us everything. Data's voice suddenly crackled through Picard's comm badge. Captain, I have penetrated the pyramid's core systems. I can disrupt Apocalypse's enhancement technology, but only for 47 seconds before his systems adapt. It will cause significant pain to anyone currently enhanced, including the Four Horsemen. Do it, Picard commanded. Captain, the pain will be equivalent to cellular restructuring without anesthesia for approximately 50 individuals currently in various stages of enhancement throughout the pyramid. I cannot guarantee they will survive the reversal process. Picard closed his eyes, facing the impossible choice. Apocalypse had, engineered from the beginning, caused tremendous suffering to 50 people to potentially save them, or allow them to remain enhanced and enslaved to this ancient being's philosophy. Every Starfleet regulation, every medical ethical principle screamed against causing such agony. But the alternative was worse. I'm sorry, Picard whispered. Then louder. Data, activate the disruption. The arena erupted in screams. The Four Horsemen collapsed, their enhanced bodies rejecting the technological augmentation. As it was forcibly deactivated, throughout the pyramid, 50 colonists who had accepted enhancement experienced the reversal, their cellular structure, fighting against itself as celestial. Technology shut down. Some would survive the trauma, others wouldn't. Picard knelt beside the horsemen as they convulsed, his face reflecting the cost of his choice. I'm sorry, he repeated this time to them. I'm so sorry. Apocalypse's roar shook the pyramid. You speak of compassion, yet you torture them. You condemn causing suffering while inflicting agony. You are a hypocrite, Picard. Yes, Picard shouted back, and his voice carried through the arena with raw emotion that silenced even Apocalypse. Yes, I am. I made a choice that will haunt me for the rest of my life. I authorized suffering to prevent greater slavery. That's what command means in an imperfect universe. Not easy moral victories, but impossible choices between terrible options. I don't claim to be pure, to be without compromise, to never cause harm. I claim only to do the least harm possible while protecting the most vulnerable. That's not hypocrisy. That's the burden of consciousness. The arena fell silent except for the labored breathing of the recovering horsemen. Slowly, agonizingly, they began to speak, not with Apocalypse's philosophical certainty, but with confusion, pain, and fragments of their original personalities surfacing. I had children, Conquest whispered, his Andorian accent returning. Theris. My name is Theris. What did he make me do? Picard helped him sit up, supporting his weight as the former merchant wept for what he'd become. Around the arena, the colonists who had been forced to watch began to stir, their enforced silence broken by Picard's defiance. Apocalypse stared at the scene, his ancient mind processing something it hadn't encountered in millennia, not defeat in combat, but the collapse of his philosophical framework. His test had been designed to prove that survival instinct trumped morality. Instead, Picard had demonstrated that morality could justify horrific choices in service of greater principles. You are willing to bear guilt for others, Apocalypse said slowly, as if discovering a new concept. To accept moral staining of your own conscience to preserve their autonomy. This is not weakness, but neither is it strength as I understand it. It's humanity, Picard said quietly, still supporting Theris. In all its complicated, contradictory, impossible glory. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. We cause harm even when trying to prevent it. But we keep trying. We keep choosing to believe that. Consciousness means responsibility. To minimize suffering, to preserve autonomy, to protect the vulnerable even when protecting them costs us our moral purity. Apocalypse was silent for a long moment. Then, your trial is not finished, Captain. You have disrupted one test. But the pyramid contains thousands more colonists. And my philosophy has already taken root in hundreds of them. Can you save them all? Can you make impossible choices again and again? Or will you eventually break, as all beings break when pushed beyond their limits? Picard stood, his legs shaking with exhaustion but his voice steady. I don't know if I can save them all. I don't know if I'll break. But I know I'll keep trying until I have nothing left to give. Because that's what it means to be human, to strive toward impossible ideals even when we know we'll fall short. You see that as weakness. I see it as the only thing that makes existence worthwhile. The Romulan warbird Valdor decloaked at the edge of the New Providence system. Its commander, Tomalak, studying the tactical situation with the calculating precision of a predator assessing prey. On his view screen, the transformed pyramid pulsed with alien energy while Federation and civilian vessels maintained cautious distance. Fascinating, Tomalak murmured. An ancient being with technology that surpasses both Federation and Romulan capabilities, systematically dismantling their precious ideology. And they invited us to watch. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the pyramid, his communications officer reported. It's addressed to all Romulan vessels in range. Apocalypse's face filled the Valdor's view screen. And even Tomalak, veteran of countless conflicts, felt an instinctive wariness. Commander Tomalak, your reputation precedes you. A warrior who has fought the Federation for decades, who understands that peace is merely the interval between conflicts. I would speak with someone who appreciates the necessity of strength. I am listening, Tomalak replied carefully, noting how Apocalypse's technology had penetrated their cloak and identified him personally. Though I wonder why a being of your evident power concerns himself with the Romulan Star Empire. Because you, unlike the Federation, have not forgotten the fundamental law of existence. Trust no one and survive at all costs. Your Tal Shiar understands what Starfleet refuses to acknowledge. That gathering intelligence, eliminating threats, and ensuring Romulan supremacy requires moral flexibility the Federation abhors. Tomalak's expression remained neutral, but his mind raced. Flattery from a being this powerful was either genuine recognition or sophisticated manipulation. The Federation would call our methods tyranny. What do you call them? Realism, Apocalypse replied. I have observed your species. You maintain a facade of civilized senatorial government, while your true power rests with military and intelligence apparatus. You understand that democracy is merely tyranny by majority, and that true strength lies in the hands of those willing to make hard decisions others cannot stomach. This is evolutionary wisdom. And yet, Tomalak countered, you test the Federation, not the Romulan Empire. If you value our realism, why challenge them? Because they are the greater threat to natural order. The Federation's ideology spreads like a virus, infecting species with the delusion that weakness can be strength, that cooperation can overcome competition. Your empire maintains its borders through strength. Klingon respect power. Even the Cardassians understand conquest. But the Federation, they genuinely believe their principles can transform the galaxy. They are missionaries of mediocrity, and they must be stopped. Inside the pyramid, Picard heard every word through Data's illegal tap into the Romulan communication network. His blood ran cold as he realized Apocalypse's true strategy. This wasn't just about testing the Federation. It was about recruiting alternatives, building a coalition of might makes right philosophies to crush cooperative idealism. Captain, Data's voice came through his comm badge. Apocalypse is simultaneously broadcasting different messages to different factions. He tells the Klingon he respects warrior culture. He tells the Romulans he admires their pragmatism. He tells arriving independent vessels he offers liberation from Federation weakness. He is tailoring his philosophy to appeal to each culture's existing resentments. Worf, recovered from his earlier punishment, moved beside Picard. Divide and conquer. An ancient strategy, but effective. He cannot destroy the Federation through force. We are too numerous, too widely distributed. But if he can turn our neighbors against us, convince them that our principles threaten their cultures, he creates a war fought not over territory, but over ideology itself. Picard finished grimly. The most dangerous kind. In the arena's medical section, Dr. Crusher worked frantically to stabilize the four horsemen and other colonists recovering from forced enhancement reversal. 32 had survived the process. 18 had not, their bodies unable to withstand the shock of cellular restructuring. She'd added 18 names to the list of people Picard's least harm decision had killed. Jean-Luc, she said when he came to check on the survivors, her voice heavy with exhaustion and something else, judgment, perhaps, or disappointment. I understand why you did it. I even agree it was necessary. But don't pretend it doesn't cost. 18 people are dead because of a choice we made. Theris Th. Kryn will live, but he'll have permanent neurological damage. Sarah Okonkwo's immune system may never fully recover. This is the price of your impossible choice. I know, Picard said quietly, looking at each covered body, memorizing faces from personnel files. And I'll carry it. That's what command means, Beverly. Not making perfect choices, but making imperfect choices and bearing their weight. On the Valdor, Tomalak made his decision. What do you propose, Apocalypse? An alliance between your philosophy and the Romulan Star Empire. Not an alliance. An understanding. I will continue testing the Federation, exposing their weaknesses, proving that their ideology fails under pressure. You will observe and report to your Senate that the Federation's decline has begun. When their member worlds see their precious principles crumble. When their citizens accept my enhancement to survive trials. Their cooperation cannot overcome. Your empire will be positioned to absorb the fragments. And what do you gain from this arrangement? Apocalypse's smile was predatory. Validation. Proof that 5,000 years of guiding evolution was correct. The Federation represents everything I oppose: egalitarianism, compassion, the elevation of the weak. If I can break them, if I can prove their philosophy fails, then every other civilization will learn the lesson. Strength is truth. Power is survival. Evolution has no room for mercy. Tomalak nodded slowly. The Romulan Star Empire will observe your testing. We make no promises of alliance, but neither will we interfere with your demonstration. Consider us interested spectators. The transmission ended, and Tomalak turned to his officers. Begin detailed sensor scans of that pyramid. Every technological specification, every energy signature. The Tal Shiar will want complete analysis. Back in the pyramid, Counselor Troi found Picard staring at a holographic display showing the colony's population distribution. Thousands of red dots represented colonists still under Apocalypse's control. Green dots, those freed or resisting, numbered only in the hundreds. You're planning something, Troi observed, her empathic senses reading the determination and dread warring in his emotional state. Data has identified the pyramid's core, the central chamber where Apocalypse's enhancement technology originates. If we can destroy it, we end his ability to convert more colonists. But it would also kill anyone currently undergoing enhancement, Troi finished. And data estimates that's approximately 200 people at any given moment. Another impossible choice. No. Picard's voice was firm. I won't make that choice. Not yet. There has to be another way. Captain, Data's urgent voice cut through their conversation. Sensors detect a massive energy buildup in the pyramid's upper chambers. Apocalypse is preparing something significantly more powerful than previous trials. I am reading quantum signatures consistent with temporal manipulation technology. Temporal manipulation. Picard felt his blood chill. If Apocalypse could affect time itself, the ancient mutant appeared before them, materializing with casual disregard for walls or distance. Captain Picard, you survived my horsemen through clever words and harsh choices. You demonstrated that Federation principles can bend without breaking, that morality can accommodate temporary evil for greater good. I confess, I am impressed. But words and small sacrifices are insufficient. Now comes your greatest test. The pyramid shook and reality bent. Picard found himself standing in a chamber that shouldn't exist, a room containing thousands of crystalline pods, each holding a colonist in temporal stasis. But something was wrong with the flow of time around them. Some pods cycled through days and seconds. Others remained frozen for what seemed like hours but measured only milliseconds on his chronometer. Temporal dilation fields. Data's voice explained through technology that shouldn't work in this distorted space but somehow did. Each colonist is experiencing time at a different rate. Those in accelerated time are aging rapidly. Those in decelerated time are frozen. And the differential is increasing. Apocalypse's voice echoed through the impossible chamber. Here is your test of cooperation and compassion, Captain. These 3,000 colonists are caught in temporal streams of varying speeds. I can stabilize all fields, but only if you make a choice. I will enhance 1,000 of them, selecting those with superior genetic markers. They will survive with my gifts. The other 2,000 will remain in unstable temporal flux, eventually aging to death or frozen forever. Or, Picard already knew what was coming, and his hands clenched into fists. Or you can choose which 2,000 die quickly, painlessly, and I will save the remaining 1,000 without enhancement. Your compassionate principles at work. Captain, save 1,000 by killing 2,000. Your cooperation in action. Work with me to minimize casualties. Or refuse, and all 3,000 suffer uncertain fates. What will Federation morality choose? This is insane, Picard said, his voice shaking with rage. You're forcing me to play God, to decide who lives and dies based on arbitrary numbers. I am forcing you to face reality. Resources are always limited. Choices are always necessary. Your Federation hides this truth behind post-scarcity economics and replicator technology. But the fundamental law remains. Not everyone can be saved. Doctors make triage decisions daily. Starship captains decide which crew members beam down to dangerous planets. You have made these choices before, Picard. I am merely making them explicit and unavoidable. Picard turned to the pods, looking at the faces of ordinary people caught in a nightmare. Engineers and teachers, parents and children, humans and aliens, all frozen in temporal distortion because a 5,000-year-old being wanted to prove a philosophical point. No, Picard said finally. No. Apocalypse's voice carried surprise. No, I refuse your test. I refuse to choose who lives and dies according to your rules. Data. How long before the temporal fields destabilize completely? Approximately 2 hours, 17 minutes, Captain. Then we have 2 hours to find a third option. Apocalypse. You claim evolution is about adaptation. You claim strength means surviving impossible odds. Then watch as we adapt. Watch as we survive. Not by accepting your choices, but by creating our own. Apocalypse's laughter filled the chamber, but beneath it, Picard detected something else, curiosity. The ancient mutant was genuinely interested in whether they could find an alternative, because in 5,000 years, perhaps no one had ever refused to play his game. Very well, Captain. 2 hours. Show me that your cooperation can overcome reality itself, or prove that I am right, that when truly tested, your principles fail, your cooperation fractures, and only the strong decide who survives. The Enterprise bridge had transformed into a command center, coordinating 3 simultaneous operations. Riker stood at the center, orchestrating a desperate plan that violated several laws of physics and most of Starfleet's safety protocols. Geordi, tell me you've found something, Riker demanded, watching the chronometer count down. 1 hour, 43 minutes remaining. La Forge's voice crackled through the comm from engineering, his tone frantic with the kind of controlled panic that came from solving impossible problems under time pressure. Commander, I've been analyzing the pyramid's temporal mechanics. The technology is based on principles we don't fully understand. But there's a pattern. Each temporal field is anchored to a specific quantum frequency. If we could generate a harmonizing field that synchronizes all 3,000 frequencies simultaneously, we'd stabilize everyone at normal time flow, Riker finished. What do you need? The deflector dish reconfigured into a quantum harmonic generator. The warp core operating at 127% of rated capacity. And a Federation starship's worth of luck. Oh, and Commander, there's a 93% chance this overloads our systems and we lose main power for 6 hours. We'd be dead in the water if anyone decides to attack. Riker glanced at the view screen showing the Romulan warbird maintaining position at the system's edge. If they lost power with Tomalak watching, do it anyway. We're committed. Inside the pyramid, Picard worked with Data and the freed colonists to map the temporal distortion patterns. The android's positronic brain processed information faster than the temporal fields could shift, giving them real-time updates on which pods were experiencing the most dangerous acceleration or deceleration. Captain, I have identified 73 colonists whose temporal acceleration has reached critical levels, data reported, highlighting specific pods. They will age beyond survival thresholds within 32 minutes. Additionally, 41 colonists in extreme temporal deceleration are experiencing quantum uncertainty. Their molecular structures are beginning to phase out of normal space-time. They have approximately 51 minutes before they become permanently displaced. Theris Thkrin, still recovering from his forced enhancement but determined to help, studied the patterns with his merchant's eye for complex systems. There's a logic to the distribution. Apocalypse isn't randomly assigning temporal rates. He's categorizing. The fastest aging colonists are older individuals, those with chronic health issues. The frozen ones are young, healthy, genetically superior by his metrics. He's forcing you to choose between saving the elderly and sick, or the young and strong. Of course he is, Picard said bitterly. Every test is designed to make us validate his philosophy through our choices. If we save the young and healthy first, we prove his point about evolutionary fitness. If we save the elderly and sick, we doom the superior specimens and still prove his point about cooperation being inefficient. Worf's comm badge chirped with an incoming transmission. Lieutenant, this is Chancellor Gowron. I wish to speak with Captain Picard. Picard took the communication, expecting another complication. Chancellor, Picard, the High Council has been monitoring this situation. I will be direct. Many in the Empire believe Apocalypse speaks truth about strength and survival. They see your federations struggle as proof that cooperation is weakness. Gowron paused, his wild eyes calculating something. But I remember the Khitomer Accords. I remember that Klingon and humans working together defeated threats neither could face alone. And I remember that honor sometimes means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Chancellor, what are you saying? The Empire will not allow the Romulans to be the only observers of your failure or success. I am dispatching 3 birds of prey to New Providence. If you can prove that your cooperation achieves what Apocalypse claims is impossible, the Klingon Empire will remember. If you fail, Gowron's expression hardened, then the Empire will know the Federation's time has ended. The transmission cut off, leaving Picard with more questions than answers. But before he could process the implications, Counselor Troy's urgent voice filled the chamber. Captain, I'm detecting a massive shift in emotional resonance from the colonists still under Apocalypse's control. They're organizing, not being controlled directly, but coordinating voluntarily. I think they're planning to help us. A wall of the temporal chamber shimmered, and Governor Martinez appeared, still enhanced, still carrying the mark of Apocalypse's philosophy. But her expression conflicted. Behind her stood 200 enhanced colonists, their superior physiology evident in their bearing and the unnatural stillness of their enhanced metabolisms. Captain Picard, Martinez said, her voice carrying echoes of the person she'd been and the thing Apocalypse had made her. We've been listening to your attempts to save everyone, and we've been arguing among ourselves about what strength really means. Governor, let me finish. Martinez moved closer, and Picard could see the struggle in her eyes, enhanced neural pathways, fighting against recovered memories. Apocalypse enhanced us with the promise that we'd become superior, that we'd transcend the weakness of our original forms. And physically, it's true. I can process information faster, react quicker, heal from injuries that would have killed me. But she gestured to the enhanced colonists behind her. But we remember being human, being Andorian, being Vulcan. We remember valuing things beyond survival, love, art, curiosity, the joy of helping someone for no reason, except it felt right. Apocalypse's enhancement gave us superior bodies, but it's trying to erase what made us people. One of the enhanced colonists stepped forward, a young human man, whose muscular augmentation was visible beneath his torn uniform. I was a teacher, Captain. I taught children literature and music. Apocalypse tried to make me see that as useless, that only practical survival skills matter. But I remember a student who learned to read despite dyslexia. I remember the look on her face when she finished her first novel. That memory won't fit into his philosophy of strength. But it's the most important thing I've ever done. Picard felt something crack in his chest, not despair, but hope so sharp it hurt. What are you proposing, Governor? We help you save the unenhanced colonists. We use our superior strength and speed to manually recalibrate the temporal pods from inside the distortion fields. It will be dangerous. Our enhanced bodies might survive the temporal acceleration better than normal humans. But there are no guarantees. Some of us will age to death. Some will freeze forever. But we choose to risk it. What? Picard asked, needing to understand. You've embraced Apocalypse's philosophy. You've accepted that strength is survival. Why sacrifice yourselves for those he deemed weaker? Martinez smiled, and for the first time since her enhancement, it reached her eyes. Because maybe strength isn't just about surviving. Maybe it's about what you do with your survival. Apocalypse gave us power, Captain. We're choosing to use it the way Federation principles taught us, to protect others, even at cost to ourselves, even if it means we die proving him wrong. Apocalypse materialized in the chamber, his expression unreadable. You would betray me? After I elevated you beyond your limitations? You didn't elevate us, the former teacher said, his enhanced voice carrying steel. You tried to diminish us. You gave us stronger bodies while trying to kill our humanity. We choose to keep both, the strength and the compassion. That's real evolution. For the first time in their encounters, Picard saw genuine shock cross Apocalypse's ancient face. His entire philosophy rested on the assumption that enhanced strength would inevitably lead to acceptance of might makes right principles. But these colonists had found a third option, accepting physical enhancement while rejecting moral corruption. Captain, Data interrupted. Urgently, the Enterprise is ready to generate the harmonic field. But Commander LaForge requires someone inside the temporal distortion to fine-tune the quantum frequencies in real time. The adjustments must be made within 3.7 microseconds of each shift. Even my positronic brain cannot process that quickly while navigating temporal acceleration. I can, Martinez said. My enhanced neural processing can handle those calculations. But Captain, I'll need to be in the most accelerated pod to make the adjustments cascade properly. I'll age decades in minutes. I probably won't survive. Picard looked at this woman who had been broken and rebuilt, who had embraced and rejected Apocalypse's philosophy in equal measure, and saw something. The ancient mutant had never understood that consciousness creates choice, and choice creates meaning. Governor, Elena, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Because if I don't, I become exactly what he wanted. Powerful but purposeless, strong but empty. I'd rather die as someone who chose compassion than live as someone who forgot how. She turned to Apocalypse, her enhanced physiology allowing her to meet his gaze without flinching. You wanted to test if Federation principles could survive under pressure. You're about to get your answer. Not from their strongest warrior or their most brilliant scientist, but from ordinary people who choose to be extraordinary. Apocalypse was silent, his ancient mind processing something it had never encountered in 5 millennia, willing self-sacrifice not from weakness or desperation, but from conscious choice to uphold principles over survival. This is not how the test was designed, he said finally, and for the first time, his voice carried uncertainty. No, Picard agreed, because you designed it to have only your approved answers. But consciousness, true consciousness, means the ability to create new answers. That's what you've never understood in 5,000 years. You've been testing bodies and behaviors, but you've never truly tested what makes us people, the ability to choose. Meaning over survival, purpose over power, connection over conquest. The 200 enhanced colonists moved into position, each entering temporal distortion fields that would age or freeze them. Martinez walked toward the most accelerated pod, her steps steady despite knowing what awaited. Mr. Data, coordinate with the Enterprise, Picard commanded. Governor Martinez will be with you every step. You won't face this alone. Captain, she said, pausing at the pod's entrance. Tell my family I remembered who I was, that I chose to come back. She entered the field, and time accelerated around her. through the crystalline walls. Picard watched decades compress into moments, her hair graying, skin aging, body weakening, as she fought to input the quantum frequency adjustments that would save 3,000 lives. Harmonizing field active, La Forge's voice reported. Receiving frequency data from Governor Martinez. Adjusting. She's doing it, Captain. The fields are stabilizing. Throughout the chamber, temporal distortion collapsed. 3,000 colonists gasped as time synchronized. Their aging stopped, their freezing reversed. The enhanced volunteers staggered from their fields, some aged, some untouched by the gamble they'd taken, all alive. But in the most accelerated pod, Elena Martinez collapsed, her body finally giving out after living 90 years in 5 minutes. Picard rushed to her side as Data deactivated the field, cradling her aged form. Did it work? She whispered, her voice frail. Yes, Picard said, his own voice breaking. You saved them all. She smiled, decades of lines creasing her face. Good. Then it was worth it. Tell Apocalypse. Tell him strength without purpose is just survival. But purpose, that's what makes us alive. Elena Martinez died in Picard's arms, having lived a full life in 5 minutes, having chosen meaning over survival, having proved that consciousness transcends biology. Apocalypse stared at her body, then at the 3,000 living colonists, then at the 200 enhanced volunteers who had risked everything to save others. His ancient certainty cracked, just slightly, revealing something beneath, not agreement, but doubt. This changes nothing, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. One act of sacrifice does not invalidate 5,000 years of evolutionary truth. It doesn't have to invalidate it, Picard said quietly, still holding Martinez. It just has to prove there's more to existence than your truth. That consciousness creates possibilities beyond survival and domination. That's what you've never accounted for, the infinite creativity of beings who can imagine purposes beyond mere existence. The USS Enterprise's warp core pulsed with dangerous intensity. Its matter-antimatter reaction pushed beyond rated capacity. In engineering, Geordi La Forge watched his system strain against the demands of maintaining the quantum harmonic field while his ship hung defenseless in space. Commander Riker, we've got a problem, La Forge reported, his voice tight. The harmonic field is stable, but it's drawing so much power that shields are at 18% and dropping. If anyone wanted to attack us right now, we'd last maybe 3 minutes. On the bridge, Riker watched the tactical display with growing alarm. The Romulan warbird Valdor had moved closer, its weapon systems powered but not locked. 3 Klingon birds of prey had decloaked nearby, their intentions equally ambiguous. And still more civilian vessels arrived, drawn by Apocalypse's broadcasts like moths to a flame that might either enlighten or consume them. Sensors detect weapons charging on the Valdor, Worf reported. They are targeting our warp nacelles. Typical Romulan tactics: disable, then interrogate or destroy. Hail them, Riker commanded. Tomalak's face appeared on the view screen, his expression calculating. Commander Riker, your vessel is admirably vulnerable at the moment. It would be simple to disable you. Board the Enterprise and extract your captain from that pyramid along with detailed scans of Apocalypse's technology. The Tal Shiar would reward such initiative handsomely. Then why haven't you fired? Riker asked, keeping his voice level despite his racing pulse. Because, Tomalak said slowly, I am curious. Your captain has done something I did not anticipate. He's turned Apocalypse's enhanced followers against their benefactor, not through force or deception, but through philosophy. It's unprecedented, and the Romulan Star Empire values precedent. We want to see how this resolves before committing to action. In other words, you're hedging your bets. Tomalak's smile was thin. In other words, Commander, we are doing what you would do in our position, gathering intelligence before acting. But know this, if your captain fails, if Apocalypse proves the Federation's weakness, the Valdor will be the first to ensure that weakness is exploited. The galaxy has no room for civilizations built on comfortable lies. The transmission ended, leaving Riker to coordinate a defense they couldn't mount and a rescue they couldn't execute. All they could do was maintain the harmonic field and hope. Picard found a way to end this before their power reserves failed or their observers. Patience expired. Inside the pyramid, Apocalypse paced before the 3,000 freed colonists, his ancient mind struggling with a problem it had never encountered, his own philosophy being used against him, through willing sacrifice rather than rejected, through moral platitudes. "You think one death proves me wrong?" he demanded, his voice echoing through the impossible chamber. Martinez chose to sacrifice herself. That is her weakness validated, not refuted. She could have lived for decades more in her enhanced form, but she chose death for others. Evolutionary fitness eliminated from the gene pool through her own choice. "This proves my point." "No," Picard said, standing among the colonists rather than apart from them. "It proves that sapient beings value things beyond genetic survival." Elena Martinez didn't die because she was weak. She died because she was strong enough to choose meaning over mere existence. That's not evolutionary failure. It's evolutionary transcendence. We've evolved beyond simple survival imperatives to create purpose. Data stepped forward, his positronic brain offering logical precision to emotional truth. "I am not alive in the biological sense. I do not reproduce, do not pass genetic material, do not participate in evolutionary selection as you define it. Yet I exist, I function, I make choices that affect outcomes. If evolution is truly the only measure of worth, I should be worthless. But Captain Picard and this crew treat me as a valued colleague. They have fought for my legal rights as a sentient being, despite my inability to contribute to genetic fitness. This suggests your evolutionary framework is incomplete." Apocalypse turned his ancient gaze on Data, and something flickered in those eyes: calculation, mixed with genuine consideration. "You are an artificial construct, an anomaly. Your existence does not disprove natural law." "Then explain me," came a new voice. Everyone turned to see the traveler materialize in the chamber, the mysterious being who had once helped Wesley Crusher explore the nature of reality itself. His presence carried an otherness that made even Apocalypse pause. "I am neither organic nor mechanical," the traveler continued, his form shimmering between states of matter. "I exist across dimensions, perceive time as geography, and move between quantum realities as easily as you walk between rooms. By every measure of your philosophy, I should represent ultimate evolutionary achievement, power beyond biological limits, transcendence of physical law. Yet I spend my existence helping others grow, teaching species to expand their consciousness, guiding civilizations toward cooperation rather than competition. Why would I do this if strength through competition is universal law?" Apocalypse stared at this being who represented something beyond his 5,000-year experience. "Who are you?" "Someone who has seen what you have not. That consciousness evolves beyond mere survival. That species which achieve true advancement do so not through culling the weak, but through elevating all members. The Federation, for all its flaws and contradictions, represents a step toward that transcendence. And you, Insaba Nur, represent an evolutionary dead end, a philosophy that produces only tyrants and victims, never true advancement." "I am the first," Apocalypse growled, his power flaring. "I have guided evolution across millennia. I have seen species rise and fall. You have enforced stagnation while calling it evolution." The traveler interrupted gently. "True evolution is not stronger bodies or faster minds. It is expanded consciousness, increased empathy, the ability to perceive connections across time and space and species. The Federation has achieved in centuries what you failed to achieve in 5 millennia. They have learned to see beyond themselves." Apocalypse's form seemed to waver, his certainty cracking under the weight of perspective vaster than his own. "Then what am I? If my philosophy is wrong, if 5,000 years of guiding evolution was misguided, what have I been?" "You have been evolution's teacher," Picard said quietly, and every eye turned to him. "But like all teachers, you've been teaching from your own experience, your own time. You were born in an age of scarcity, violence, and competition. Those were the rules of survival then. You learned them so well that you could not imagine anything beyond them. But evolution, true evolution, means adapting to new environments. And the environment has changed." He gestured to the colonists, to Data, to the traveler. "We live in a universe where consciousness can exist in artificial forms. where beings can transcend dimensionality itself, where cooperation achieves what competition cannot. Your philosophy was once truth, but truth evolves too, and you've been so busy enforcing ancient wisdom that you stopped learning new lessons. Apocalypse was silent for a long moment, his massive form still as stone. Then, and what lesson should I learn, Captain? That weakness is strength? That compassion trumps survival? That 5,000 years of experience means nothing against your 3 centuries of Federation idealism? No, Picard replied. The lesson is that consciousness creates choice, and choice creates responsibility. You have the power to reshape species, to cull or elevate according to your judgment. That power is real. But consciousness means you can choose how to use it, not according to ancient imperatives, but according to what you decide has meaning. You've spent 5,000 years as evolution's enforcer. What if you spent the next 5,000 as its teacher, helping species grow not through culling, but through challenge and support? You want me to become what? A Federation educator? Apocalypse's voice carried something between mockery and genuine uncertainty. I want you to evolve, Picard said simply. Not your body, that's already transcendent, but your philosophy, your purpose, your understanding of what consciousness makes possible. You claim to guide evolution, then evolve your own thinking. That's the ultimate test, not of humanity's strength or the Federation's principles, but of your ability to adapt after 5,000 years of certainty. The pyramid trembled. Throughout its impossible architecture, the machinery of enhancement and testing began to power down. The celestial technology that had sustained Apocalypse's trials flickered and dimmed. You ask me to abandon everything I am, Apocalypse said, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. Every certainty, every truth I have enforced across countless civilizations. You ask me to doubt. I ask you to think, Picard countered. Truly think. Not according to ancient programming or 5,000-year-old imperatives, but with the full power of consciousness you possess. You've tested everyone else's philosophy. When was the last time you tested your own? Apocalypse turned his gaze on the 3,000 colonists, freed from temporal distortion, some enhanced and some not, all alive because they had cooperated despite his tests being designed to make cooperation fail. Then he looked at Martinez's aged body, at the sacrifice that defied his evolutionary logic. Finally, he studied Picard himself, a human who had made impossible choices, caused suffering to prevent greater harm, and never stopped believing in principles even when following them cost him peace. I do not know if you are right, Apocalypse said finally. 5,000 years of experience argues against your philosophy. But, he paused, and the ancient certainty in his voice fractured. But, I cannot explain why enhanced beings would sacrifice themselves for the unenhanced. Cannot explain why consciousness persists in artificial form. Cannot explain why cooperation achieves outcomes competition should prevent. Perhaps my understanding is incomplete. Then stay, Picard offered, and the audacity of the invitation made several colonists gasp. Not as conqueror or tester, but as observer. Watch the Federation. Watch how we fail and succeed. Watch how cooperation functions in practice, not theory. Watch how consciousness creates purposes beyond survival. And after you've truly observed rather than tested, make your judgment. Not according to ancient law, but according to what you learn. You would trust me? After everything I have done here? No, Picard admitted. But I would give you the chance to prove you can evolve beyond what you've been. That's what we do in the Federation. We believe beings can change, can grow, can become more than their programming. If we extend that belief to artificial intelligence, to former Borg drones, to species who were once enemies, why not to you? Apocalypse stood silent, processing concepts that had no place in his 5,000-year-old worldview. The pyramid around them began to collapse, its impossible architecture returning to more comprehensible dimensions as his enhancement technology powered down. I will consider this, he said finally. I make no promises. I do not concede defeat or accept your philosophy, but I will observe. Perhaps there are evolutionary principles I have not yet encountered. Perhaps consciousness does create possibilities beyond my experience. He turned to leave, then paused. But know this, Captain Picard, if observation proves you wrong, if your cooperation fails under genuine pressure, if your principles collapse when tested by forces less patient than I will return. And I will cull. That is my purpose. That is my nature. I am evolution's hand, whether gentle or harsh. I understand, Picard replied. And if that day comes, we'll face it. But until then, I hope you'll learn what we've learned, that nature isn't everything. That consciousness can reshape nature. That purpose can transcend biology. That's the lesson humanity has spent centuries learning. And we're still learning it. Maybe after 5,000 years, you can learn it too. Apocalypse vanished without another word, taking his celestial technology with him. The pyramid collapsed into rubble, releasing 3,000 colonists into New Providence's evening air. Above them, the Enterprise's shields powered back up as the harmonic field shut down. Around the system, observers from a dozen species watched and wondered what they had witnessed, the Federation's greatest test, or its last chance at validation before inevitable decline. In Elena Martinez's personnel file, Picard made a final entry, gave her life to save others, proved that enhancement of body need not mean diminishment of spirit, demonstrated that true strength lies in purpose, not merely power. She will be remembered. 3 weeks after Apocalypse's departure, Captain's log stardate 47,634.8. Captain Jean-Luc Picard found himself in the uncomfortable position of explaining the inexplicable to Starfleet Command. Admiral Elena Nechayev's holographic form stood in his ready room, her expression suggesting she'd aged a decade processing the reports from New Providence. "Let me understand this correctly, Captain," Nechayev said, her voice carrying the precise enunciation of someone maintaining composure through sheer willpower. "You encountered a being with technology beyond anything we've seen outside of Q or the Dowd. This being killed 18 colonists through forced enhancement reversal, subjected thousands to psychological torture, and attempted to dismantle the Federation's philosophical foundations. And your solution was to invite him to stay and observe our society." "That is accurate, Admiral," Picard replied calmly, though his hands were clasped behind his back with enough tension to make his knuckles white. Apocalypse represents a genuine threat, but also a genuine opportunity. His philosophy is 5,000 years old, Admiral. If we can demonstrate that cooperation achieves what competition cannot, we potentially neutralize not just him, but every civilization that shares his belief that might makes right. Or you've given an ancient tyrant detailed intelligence on our capabilities, psychology, and vulnerabilities. Nechayev leaned forward. The Romulan Star Empire is already using this incident in their propaganda. The Klingon High Council is divided between those who respect your actions and those who see them as confirmation of Federation weakness. And we have reports of 17 colony worlds where citizens are openly questioning whether egalitarian principles make them vulnerable to predators like Apocalypse. Picard felt the weight of those 17 worlds like physical pressure. "Admiral, the alternative was to fight a being we couldn't defeat, or evacuate and allow him to claim New Providence as proof of his philosophy. I chose a third option, challenge his certainty through demonstration, rather than rhetoric. Yes, it's risky. Yes, it could backfire spectacularly. But if it works, if he genuinely begins to question his ancient assumptions, we gain an ally instead of creating an immortal enemy." Nechayev was silent for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, the President's office is calling this either the most brilliant diplomatic maneuver in Federation history, or the most dangerous gamble since we first contacted the Borg. Starfleet Command is divided. You're being recommended for both a commendation and a formal inquiry, possibly simultaneously. I understand, Admiral. Do you, Captain? Because the galaxy is watching what happens next. Every species that resents the Federation's success, every culture that believes cooperation is weakness, every empire that views compassion as vulnerability, they're all watching to see if Apocalypse was right. If our principles can't survive genuine testing, the political consequences will be catastrophic. Then we'd better ensure they survive, Admiral. Nechayev's expression softened slightly. For what it's worth, Jean-Luc, I think you made the only choice available. But the fallout from this is going to ripple across the quadrant for years. We've already received formal inquiries from the Klingon Empire requesting information about enhancement technology for warriors. The Ferengi Commerce Authority wants to negotiate licensing rights to Apocalypse's celestial machinery, and the Romulan Tau Shear has been unusually active along the neutral zone. We believe they're searching for similar ancient technologies. After the transmission ended, Picard walked to his window overlooking engineering, watching his crew restore systems damaged by the quantum harmonic field strain. Geordi LaForge and his team worked with the focused intensity of people who understood their ship had survived more through luck than design. The door chimed. "Come." Counselor Troi entered, her empathic senses immediately detecting his emotional state. "You're wondering if you did the right thing." "I'm certain I did the necessary thing," Picard replied. "Whether it was right remains to be seen." "How are the colonists?" "Recovering. Physically, most will be fine within weeks. Psychologically," Troi moved to stand beside him. 200 accepted Apocalypse's enhancement and survived. They're struggling with what that means, whether keeping the physical benefits makes them complicit in his philosophy. 37 have requested medical procedures to reverse the enhancements. Even though it's dangerous, the rest are trying to find meaning in being physically superior while rejecting the ideology that came with it. And the families of those who died. Troy's expression darkened. Angry, grieving, conflicted. Some blame you for the choice that killed 18 during enhancement reversal. Others call Elena Martinez a hero for her sacrifice. A few are demanding Starfleet hunt down Apocalypse and make him answer for his crimes. There's no consensus, no easy healing, just complicated grief. Picard nodded, having expected nothing less. "I've written personal letters to every family. Insufficient, but necessary." "Jean-Luc," Troi said softly. "You know that guilt you're carrying? That's not weakness. That's the proof that your choices had weight, that the lives lost mattered. If you felt nothing, if this was easy, that would be cause for concern. The difficulty is evidence of your humanity. Deanna, I authorized 18 deaths to save thousands. I watched Elena Martinez age 90 years in 5 minutes. I invited a genocidal tyrant to observe our society because I couldn't think of another way to neutralize him. These aren't the actions of the archaeologist I once was, the scholar who believed understanding the past could guide the future. I've become something else, someone who makes impossible choices and lives with their consequences." "You've become a Starfleet captain," Troi replied, "which has always meant bearing burdens no one should have to carry alone. That's why you have us, your crew, your friends, people who share the weight." In the Enterprise's 10 forward, an unusual gathering had formed. Worf sat at a table with Theris Th. Kryn and 3 other formerly enhanced colonists, discussing what strength meant in practical terms. The Klingon's perspective, that honor, came from fighting for causes greater than oneself, resonated with people trying to reconcile superior physical capabilities with egalitarian values. In Klingon culture, Worf explained, his deep voice carrying conviction, we celebrate warriors who die protecting others. Death with honor is not weakness. It is the ultimate expression of strength. Governor Martinez embodied Klingon honor more than most warriors I have known. She had power and chose to spend it protecting the vulnerable. That is true courage. Data observed from a nearby table, his positronic brain processing the philosophical implications of the entire New Providence incident. Commander Riker joined him, carrying 2 drinks despite Data's inability to taste. "Penny for your thoughts, Data." "Commander, I have been considering Apocalypse's assertion that I am an evolutionary anomaly without value. By his metrics, I contribute nothing to genetic fitness, reproduce only through construction by others, and exist outside biological processes. Yet I am treated as a valued Starfleet officer and protected under Federation law as a sentient being. This suggests the Federation has already rejected Apocalypse's philosophy and practice, even when we struggle to articulate why in theory." Riker considered this. "You're saying we were living the answer before we could explain it?" "Precisely. The Federation's treatment of artificial intelligence, holographic beings, and other non-biological consciousnesses represents an implicit rejection of pure evolutionary fitness as the measure of worth. We have already decided that consciousness itself, regardless of substrate, carries inherent value. Apocalypse challenged us to defend this principle, but we have been defending it through our actions for decades. So why did it feel so difficult? Why did it seem like he was winning? Because, Data replied, there is a difference between living according to principles and defending those principles under direct challenge. Captain Picard did not merely argue against Apocalypse's philosophy, he demonstrated it through impossible choices that cost lives. He proved the Federation's principles have practical application, even when that application requires painful sacrifice. That is far more powerful than rhetoric. In sickbay, Dr. Crusher finalized medical reports on the 37 colonists seeking enhancement reversal. The procedures would be risky, potentially fatal, but she understood their need to reclaim their original bodies, to reject Apocalypse's gift even at personal cost. Doctor, one of the enhanced colonists, a young Tellarite woman named Kara, stood at the doorway. I've been thinking about the reversal procedure. I've decided. I'm keeping the enhancement. Crusher looked up, her expression neutral but encouraging. That's your choice, Kara. No one should judge you for it. But I need people to understand why. Kara moved into the room, her enhanced physiology evident in every graceful movement. Apocalypse gave me this body while trying to corrupt my mind. He failed at the second part. So now I have superior strength, faster healing, enhanced cognition, and I'm choosing to use them the way Federation principles taught me. I'm applying to Starfleet Academy, Doctor. I want to use this strength to protect people, to explore, to help. I'm going to prove you can be physically enhanced without being morally diminished. Crusher smiled, genuine warmth in her expression. That sounds like something Elena Martinez would have wanted, using his gift against his philosophy. Exactly. He made us stronger thinking it would make us cruel. Some of us are going to prove him wrong every day for the rest of our lives. On the bridge, Picard received an unexpected transmission. The signal came from deep space, untraceable, using quantum encryption that suggested celestial technology. Apocalypse's face appeared, but something was different. The absolute certainty had been replaced with something almost like contemplation. Captain Picard, I have been observing, as you suggested, watching your Federation from a distance, studying how your cooperation functions in practice. And what have you observed? Picard asked carefully. Inefficiency, waste, endless debate, and committee decisions that delay action. Resources distributed according to need rather than merit, creating dependencies that would never survive in competitive environments. Everything I expected to find. Picard felt his jaw tighten, but said nothing. And yet, Apocalypse continued, his ancient eyes reflecting something new, doubt. Your cooperation also achieves outcomes I cannot fully explain. Your crews aboard starships bond across species in ways that enhance effectiveness, beyond what specialized homogeneous teams should achieve. Your scientific advances come from collaborative research that shares credit, rather than hoarding discoveries. Your children grow up believing they can be anything, unencumbered by genetic destiny, and some percentage actually achieves remarkable things despite statistical improbability. So your conclusion is that I require more observation, that 5,000 years of experience may be insufficient to judge 3 centuries of experiment, that consciousness, true consciousness, may indeed create possibilities beyond evolutionary imperatives. Apocalypse paused. I am not convinced you are right, Captain, but I am no longer certain I am right. For a being who has lived in absolute certainty for millennia, this is disturbing and perhaps necessary. Where will you go? Where I have always gone, to observe civilizations at their boundaries, where their principles face genuine testing. But I will not cull. Not yet. I will watch and consider. And Captain, Apocalypse's expression shifted to something almost like respect. If your Federation survives the next century without abandoning its principles, without sliding into comfortable tyranny as every other egalitarian experiment has done, I will reconsider everything I believe. That is my promise. The transmission ended, leaving Picard staring at the view screen with emotions too complex to name. Captain, Data said from Ops, I am detecting unusual subspace harmonics consistent with celestial technology. Apocalypse appears to be departing Federation space entirely, heading toward the galactic rim. Let him go, Picard said quietly. We've planted a seed of doubt in a 5,000-year-old certainty. Whether it grows into something useful or dies remains to be seen. Do you believe he will truly change? Worf asked from Tactical. Picard was silent for a long moment, considering the question. I believe consciousness makes change possible. Whether he chooses to change, that's the ultimate test. Not of our principles, but of his ability to evolve beyond his programming. We'll see. New Providence rebuilt slowly. Memorial services honored the 51 who died, 18 from enhancement. Reversal, 1 from willing sacrifice, 32 from various trials before Picard's intervention. Starfleet dispatched counselors and reconstruction teams. The Federation News Service ran endless analyses of what the incident meant for galactic politics. But in the end, what mattered most happened quietly, in small moments scattered across the colony and the Enterprise. Theris Th. Kryn, recovered from his enhancement trauma, reopened his trade business with a new philosophy, seeking partnerships that enriched all parties, proving cooperation could be profitable without exploitation. The 200 enhanced colonists formed a support group, helping each other navigate life with superior bodies while maintaining egalitarian values, becoming living refutations of Apocalypse's assumption that enhancement meant abandonment of compassion. Kara and 17 other enhanced colonists entered Starfleet Academy, determined to prove that strength could serve rather than dominate. The families of those who died established the Elena Martinez Foundation, dedicated to supporting colonies, facing philosophical challenges to Federation principles. And throughout the quadrant, in ways subtle and profound, the story of New Providence spread, not as propaganda, but as truth. The story of a Federation captain who refused to accept predetermined choices. The story of enhanced beings who chose compassion over conquest. The story of ordinary people who proved extraordinary through conscious choice, rather than genetic destiny. In his ready room, Picard added a final entry to his personal log. We did not win against Apocalypse. We did not lose. We demonstrated something more important. That consciousness creates choice. Choice creates responsibility. And responsibility creates meaning beyond mere survival. He claimed to test our principles. Instead, we tested his certainty. The outcome remains undetermined, the consequences still unfolding. But for the first time in 5,000 years, an ancient being who viewed compassion as weakness has begun to doubt his own philosophy. That may be humanity's greatest achievement, not proving we're right, but proving that certainty itself can evolve. The test continues. It always will. And that's not weakness. That's the price and privilege of consciousness. He looked out his window at the stars, at the infinite possibilities consciousness had created across the galaxy, and allowed himself a small measure of hope. The Federation would face more tests. Apocalypse might return, his doubt hardened back into certainty. The galaxy contained countless threats to cooperative idealism. But today, they had survived. Today, they had demonstrated that principles could function under impossible pressure. Today, consciousness had created meaning from chaos. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. It always did. But tomorrow could wait. The USS Enterprise departed New Providence 3 weeks after Apocalypse's testing began, leaving behind a colony forever changed, not broken, but transformed. 51 graves marked the cost of defending Federation principles against ancient philosophy. 200 enhanced colonists carried the physical legacy of celestial technology while rejecting its ideological corruption. 3,000 survivors wrestled with questions about strength, cooperation, and what makes existence meaningful beyond mere survival. Across the quadrant, observers drew their own conclusions. The Klingon High Council debated whether Martinez's sacrifice represented true honor or wasted potential. The Romulan Tal Shiar cataloged every detail of Apocalypse's technology for future exploitation. The Ferengi Commerce Authority calculated the profit margins of enhancement services, and the Federation Council faced the uncomfortable reality that their principles, so easy to embrace in peaceful prosperity, had barely survived genuine testing. But something shifted in the cosmic equation. A 5,000-year-old certainty had cracked. An immortal being who viewed cooperation as weakness had begun to doubt. Not conversion, not defeat, but the first stirrings of philosophical evolution in a consciousness older than human civilization. Picard understood the fragility of what they'd achieved. One colony saved, one ancient mind slightly opened, principles proven functional under extreme pressure, but at terrible cost. The Federation's ideological foundations remained contested, their survival far from guaranteed. Yet consciousness, that strange emergent property of matter, arranged just so, had demonstrated its ultimate power, the ability to create meaning, to choose purpose, to transcend survival. Imperatives through sheer determination to believe existence could mean more than mere continuation. Apocalypse would watch from the galactic rim, observing, calculating, waiting to see if cooperation could survive the universe's indifference. The test was not over. Perhaps it would never be over. But today, the Federation endured. Today, principles functioned despite their cost. Today, ordinary beings chose to be extraordinary not through enhancement, but through purpose. And somewhere in deep space, an ancient being considered, truly, considered the possibility that 5,000 years of certainty might be insufficient to judge the infinite creativity of consciousness. The experiment continued. Evolution's hand remained poised between culling and teaching. And in that uncertainty, in that potential for change, lay hope more profound than any victory could provide.